Then what I want to do is show you a bit more advanced options for mailings. So we're going to go into this one and look at snippets and talk a little bit more about them. We already covered some of this, but I want to point out places they can be used here. You can use the snippets in the body of the email, the subject line, and the preview text. So you see here, here's an example of a subject where we've got personal content that's inserted. And requires value. So sometimes when you insert a snippet, you'll see here, like user, if we insert first name, it has a default. That's because it's possible that the user won't have a first name in the database, so you want it to say something, not be blank. There are some cases where you really can't come up with a reasonable default, and that's when we use requires value. Requires value means we won't send the email to someone if they don't have a value to be inserted there. So that provides a protection against mistakes. The reason you don't want to rely on that, you want to instead try to restrict your mailing so that only people who will have a value are targeted. It slows down your send if it needs to individually identify a bunch of people who aren't going to get this mailing. But so it's just good to know that that's what's happening. If you see some failed sends, that's going to be people who didn't have a value. You can see a list of them in the report that I just showed you. And you can resend to them or whatever. But that points out something else, which is the snippets and the targeting are not related to each other. So I can insert my snippets, which will have page targets, or a really good example here, you could have merge information. So what I've done here is set up a merge file, which I'm going to show you what that is in a second. But if I am sending to people who don't have an event near them, it's going to show me an error here, and it's going to not send to the people who don't have a mailing, who don't have an event near them. The reason it's showing me the error here is my targeting isn't limited to people who have an event near them, and I believe I can fix this. Yep. So that's snippets. And I want to show you also merge files, and that's what this mailing is using. What a merge file is a CSV of external data that you've uploaded. And, oh, that's the same thing. So CSV of external data that I've uploaded, I can hit the plus to pull up the relevant screen, although you guys aren't going to see that because it's hidden. But what I'll have in my CSV is an identifier column, which might be postal code or country, or in this case, user ID. So if you've got a partner event that you want to invite people to, it's not something that's hosted in ActionKit, you can upload the values, and it becomes click to insert once you've uploaded the merge file. So you can see here I've got the user ID column, venue, URL, address, a bunch of information about the event that I can insert into my mailing. I picked the merge file here, so that's how ActionKit knows this is the one that I want associated with this mailing. And I inserted the values. And you can see here, it's got the values inserted for the event nearest to me, or that I specified for me in the merge file. The other thing I want to point out here that's more advanced use is through wrappers, you can set up templates that define the elements that are going to be included in your mailing. And I'm not sure if you guys have done this yet, but it's something to know about because you can set it up as part of your wrapper so that when you get to the content section, instead of a big block of HTML, you have things broken out into their component pieces. And this is going to let you do things like type to pull in an image, or check that your link actually has the correct formatting. So it's got some protections. So that's how my merge file works. I'm going to show you another of the targeting shortcuts here. So if I've used a merge file to insert geography or user-specific information in my mailing, I can say only target people who have a value in that merge file. So this is going to protect against a bunch of skipped mailings and just make your mailing send faster. So let's see. What else am I going to show you here? Merge query, we are just going to talk about briefly. I think you guys are not currently using these, but these are similar. They're going to allow you to insert information that isn't currently available as a snippet into your mailing. But the way they work is instead of having a CSV of external data that you upload, this is just a report that's been tagged as a merge query. So I can select it to associate it with this mailing, and just as with the merge file, my columns are going to be available to insert in the mailing. So what I did with this one was just a count of how many shares people have done. So that's one of the examples of the types of things you can do with this. Thanks for taking action. You shared 3 times. Oops. You can insert information that's specific to the action that the user's taken most recently or in total. This is helpful for welcome emails where you want to reference the action that people joined on. There are a lot of different ways that you can use the merge queries. But they work the same as the merge file, and they let you personalize your mailing. And they have the same targeting option. So again, you can select only people who are actually targeted by the merge query will be recipients of your mailing.